EstateMaster Investment Appraisal, or IA, is a user-friendly cash flow model designed for property valuation and investment analysis. Using the flexible and comprehensive set of user inputs, it can be used to analyze small investment properties for a single tenant to large properties of up to 500 different tenants for a cash flow of up to 40 years. It can calculate property purchase and sales values using the industry standard income capitalization and discounted cash flow approaches. And it can assess the feasibility of a property investment based on its projected long-term rental cash flow and debt and equity requirements. The first thing you will notice about the model is that it is designed around a flexible spreadsheet interface, allowing you to take full advantage of the many benefits which a spreadsheet provides, including adding custom worksheets to the program, the ability to enter formulas into input cells, using GoalSeek, and being able to easily copy values or formulas between worksheets. The intro sheet provides the general information for your property and valuation, including the location, the type of property, the purpose of the valuation, and the date of the valuation. The setup sheet is where preliminary data and assumptions are entered, such as acquisition and sales dates and associated costs, capitalization rates for different uses, escalation rates, and other settings related to the discounted cash flow and capitalization. One of the key features of the setup page is the ability to customize the different uses that are found in the property and the escalation profiles that can be applied to the various costs and revenues in the model. The program can analyze a property that has up to 20 different uses, and you can add or delete uses as required. When setting up a use profile, you simply give a 3 or 4 character code, give it a description, nominate whether that use forms part of your total net lettable or net leasable area, select how the rental income for that use is being entered, and enter capitalization rates to calculate current and terminal capitalized values for that use. The escalation profiles are used throughout the program to provide annual escalation on items such as base rents, turnover rents, market rents, outgoings, and capital expenditure. You can create up to 20 different escalation profiles as required. The outgoing sheet is where all the ongoing expenses for owning your property are entered, such as rates, taxes, maintenance costs, insurance, and management fees. The model will provide examples, but these can be adjusted to suit your property. For each item, you input how often they're paid, when the payments commence and end, how much they are, and what escalation profile should be applied to them. In addition, you can indicate if each outgoing is recoverable from the tenant or not. Total recoverables are calculated at the bottom of the sheet. This informs you of the total estimated amount which can be recovered from all the tenants, and you can customize how this is apportioned when setting up the individual leases. An optional component of the outgoing sheet is the ability to set benchmarks for each item to compare them with the actual outgoings. These may be benchmarks that have been derived independently or industry-defined benchmarks. If the benchmarks are set, an outgoing comparison chart is available to graphically display the comparison. If a benchmark should not be required, the user can easily hide these columns by clicking the Hide Benchmarks button. The capital expenditure, or CapEx sheet, is where any forecast capital works expensed can be entered, such as refurbishment, major repairs, new lifts, etc. For each expenditure item, the user can enter the amount, the start, and span, and add an escalation profile. Up to 50 capital expenditure items can be factored into the cash flow, and you are able to add or delete items as required. The tenancy or rent roll sheet is the key input area in the model and the main driver of the reports. This is where all the tenants in the property and details about individual leases are entered. The tenancy schedule can accommodate a property with up to 500 different tenants, and you're able to add or delete tenant lines as required. Many parts of the tenancy sheet can be hidden if they are not applicable to your property. By clicking on the Tenant Detail button, you can decide what areas are shown and hidden from view. For example, turnover rent may not be applicable in this property, so that section can be easily hidden. The tenancy worksheet includes general information for each tenant, such as their name, floor, and suite number, the type of use, and the type of lease that applies to them, the net lettable or net leasable area that each tenant occupies, or the quantity if something is measured in units, such as car parking, the base rent that is payable by each tenant and the escalation profile applied to them, any turnover rent that may be applicable to retail leases, the payment frequency of the rental income, what outgoings are to be recovered from each tenant, the lease terms, incentives such as rent-free periods or fit-out costs, option periods for each tenant and the ability to set a probability factor of that option being exercised and incentives to take up that option, leasing up periods and reletting costs, the current market rents and the escalation profile applied to them, and some rent review assumptions. The final part of the tenancy sheet is the leasing structures area. This section allows you to set up how leases are reviewed on a yearly basis. There are several options available, including escalating the rent according to the escalation profile adopted for base rents, reverting to the escalated market rent, escalating the rent using the present CPI profile, having no rent review for that year, or simply entering a manual rental amount or a fixed percentage increase. To eliminate the arduous work of re-inputting lengthy tenancy details into EstateMaster, a tenancy schedule or rent roll import function is provided. Regardless of where you record your tenancy information, if you can export it to an Excel or CSV file in tabular format, it can be easily mapped and imported into the tenancy sheet. During the mapping process, you'll be prompted to specify which rows in your spreadsheet contain your column headers and what row the first tenancy data appears on. Then simply select the tenant sheet input columns you wish to populate and map them to the corresponding columns found in your Excel or CSV data file. And once you've completed the field mapping process, you can save this configuration for any subsequent tenancy data that you want to have imported in the same way. Another helpful feature in the tenant sheet is a quick import wizard, a function where all the key leasing input variables are displayed on a single easy-to-use screen on an individual tenant-by-tenant basis. You can use this feature to initially populate the tenants with data or as an alternative method to editing existing inputs. There is also a helpful clone function which allows you to easily add new tenants with the similar leasing details and edit them later as required. Once you've entered all your assumptions and tenancy inputs, you can start to analyze the results in your reports. By clicking on the Charts button in the tenancy sheet, you will be provided with the following charts. A tenant profile chart showing the top 5 tenants by area and income, a user profile chart showing the top 3 uses by area and income, a lease expiry chart showing forecast expiries by area and income, and an escalation comparison chart showing how income escalation, outgoings escalation, and CPI rate compare against each other for each year. These charts can be printed, exported to Excel or PDF, or they can be copied to a clipboard and pasted into other documents. In the DCF sheet, the entire cash flow of the property will be displayed, and can be toggled to either a monthly or financial year basis. By default, the cash flow shows the full detail line by line and tenant by tenant. If you wish to collapse the detail, you can use the cash flow detail view options. Some of the key outputs in this report include total IRR and NPV for the cash flow, the terminal capitalized value, a running sale value at the end of each financial year, a running yield, and a running IRR. This report also shows the purchase price for the property. You also have the flexibility to nominate a purchase price or have the program calculate a purchase price of the property based on your target IRR. In the Capitalisation Summary report, you are provided with the valuation summary of 4 of the most commonly used methods of income capitalization. You have passing income, current net income fully leased, market income, and reversionary market income. Any of these can be hidden if they are not applicable. There is also the ability to make any adjustments to the net income before it is capitalized, or the adjustments to be calculated capitalized values. In the Executive Summary report, all the key property information and statistics are provided to you, such as a summary of the property and valuation details, a photo of the property, a summary of all the major tenants and uses, the weighted lease duration by area and income, a summary of income and outgoings, the valuation results based on the capitalization method, the valuation results based on the discounted cash flow method, and a summary of the annual allowances for capital expenditure and letting up. It also includes functions for changing the adopted evaluation figure and running a sensitivity analysis for the discounted cash flow results. For property investors and fund managers, the investment report takes the property's net cash flow and adds multiple funding layers to evaluate its investment potential. Up to 3 loans can be involved in the funding of the property, with each loan being either interest only, capitalized, or principal and interest loans. You also have the option to include other loan fees. All funds required in excess of that sourced from debt are supplied as equity from the investors. It is identified as funds under management. Management fees can be entered, the desired distributions to the investors can be set, and this will then calculate the investors' cash flow and provide their IRR and NPV. And finally, as with all our cash flow models, you can export your IA cash flow to our enterprise database and use EstateMaster CC to build a portfolio of your property valuations and/or investments. For real estate valuers, this is a great way to run different valuation scenarios and keep a record of all appraisals conducted for historical reporting and benchmarking. While for investors, it provides a platform for consolidating all their investment cash flows and generating long-term forecasts for their entire portfolio. Please feel free to visit www.estatemaster.com for a 14-day trial of EstateMaster Investment Appraisal. And if you have any questions about EstateMaster IA, please contact us at any of our global offices.